Okay, I'm doing a video on how to replace the bearings on my Whirlpool front load washer. It's a compact washer. It's a model L80PQ. It was made in Italy. It's 24 by 24, so it fits underneath a kitchen counter. We actually have ours stacked. A new washer is about $1,000, and the bearing was bad, so I decided to replace the bearings. And I took it apart, took a lot more apart than I really needed to, and I'm going to do a second video to show you how to take it apart. But I have it apart. Here's the back of the drum, and the bearings are obviously in that hole. And what I did is I used a chisel to hack out the seal. What happens, the seal goes bad, and then the water gets into the front bearing, and then the bearing goes bad. There's the two old bearings there. So I used this chisel, screwdriver, whatever it takes to get the seal out. And then what I did was support this edge on 2x4s, and I used a dowel with a hammer and knocked out the bearing. It came out fairly easily, and I went back in, supported the inside edge with boards, and knocked out the inside bearing, used a piece of wood. You don't want to use a hammer. You never want to use metal on metal when you're doing bearings. So I called appliance places, and nobody had the bearing kit for it. Whirlpool will sell this whole back with the bearings already in for $350. You can't really see it on the video, but these bearings have numbers on them. Turns out Whirlpool doesn't make their own bearings. The bearings have numbers on them. I googled the numbers, and I came up with the bigbearingstoreonline.com, and I was able to buy two bearings. They had bearings to match the numbers. Turns out I didn't know this, but bearings are pretty standard. One problem I ran into was when I was looking at the numbers, I thought it was a 2, but it was actually a Z. So when you're looking at your numbers, if there's any question, Google both numbers. And bought the bearings, also bought the seal. I actually had to use a calipers or a metric ruler to measure the seal, what I needed. The seal goes on that part right there. I did buy seals the size of the inner bearing. The inner bearing is the one on the right that has a bigger hole, and I bought the wrong bearings, full disclosure. So I went back and had to buy the right bearing. The total cost of the parts was $27 with shipping. That's excluding the $3.50 bearings that I bought that were the wrong size. But the bearing was the seal was $3.50. One bearing was like $3.50, and the other bearing was like $9. So way cheaper than $350 for a new drum back. I'm going to put the bearings in. I have the old bearings. I actually put them in the freezer, so they'll get smaller and maybe make it a little easier to put in. That bolt right there with the two washers, what I'm going to do is put that through this hole with the bearings, and as I tighten the nuts down, I'm hoping that it will pull both bearings in, the front and middle front and rear bearing in at the same time to seat them, and that should press the bearings in, and then I'll just tap the seal in with a piece of wood. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. When I get this back together, I will show you, do another video on how to take it apart, so you only have to take apart what you need. Like I said, I looked at some videos and I thought the whole drum had to come out. I took apart a whole lot more than I needed to, so I will do another video when it's back together just to sort of show you what you need to take this out. Be sure to watch the other video if you're doing the job. Thanks.